Welcome to Couch Talk with Molly, where I get to talk it up with some fantastic people from First Pres Norman.
It was love at first sight.
Oh.
5 years.
This is a comedy show.
I am here with Jim and Betty Brown, who have been members, I have been informed, since 1996. And I'm going to let them introduce themselves.
Well, one of the things that I guess we should say right off the bat is tomorrow will be our 67th wedding anniversary.
Yay.
Happy anniversary!
Never last. They said it would never last.
We met at Washington University
In St. Louis,
in
Missouri.
St. Louis, Missouri. I was back from World War II, a couple years behind where I should be, and she was a freshman. And the story gets way too complex. But we met there, and it was love at first sight.
Oh.
5 years.
This is a comedy show.
5 years later, we were married.
Was it not love at first sight for you, Betty?
Well, it was love, but it was rocky love at times.
Very
My
good.
parents once told us, after we had been married for, 20 years, they said the day of the wedding, they had told one another, if that lasts 5 years, we'll be surprised. So Mom and Dad, you were about that.
Oh, wow. 67 years later, still going strong. Well, just tell us, so what got you, from Missouri, what brought you from Missouri to Oklahoma?
Well, I went to work for Westinghouse Electric Corporation out of college, and we lived in a lot of different places. We had lived here previously in the 70s, and when we had moved back to Pittsburgh, our daughter, Connie Huddleston, who's a member, stayed here, was in school. 5 years after I retired, we decided maybe we needed to be closer to one of our kids. And the other child, our son Doug, lived in Manhattan Beach, California, and we couldn't afford to live there, so we moved back to Norman.
Good
Norman's
choice.
second choice, in other words. Who wouldn't want to live in Manhattan Beach if you've ever been?
If you could afford it, why not?
When we moved back to Pittsburgh, though, we joined the largest church, Presbyterian Church, and we had been Methodist and Presbyterians as we moved around the countries. We just kind of, whatever felt good, we joined First Presbyterian.
And at that time, it was in transition.
Temporary pastors come in, and then Bob Rice came in a year later. And so Bob Rice and the Browns had kind of grew up in First Presbyterian.
So what kept you there then at First Pres? You liked the appeal of the larger church, but what kept you there?
Oh, well,
Well,
the people.
Yeah,
Yes,
certainly the people, and we love the staff,
The music.
the music.
Wow, Clark.
We've been
Awesome.
blessed with that.
Yes, we sure have. Probably Sally Matthews greeted us, I'll bet, somewhere along that first week. She was, speaking of extra jobs, she was what I called the welcome wagon lady. And boy, she could zero in on a visitor right away and make them feel welcome. And another
Yes.
person who was very instrumental, and this shows you the power of a person just reaching out in friendship. Jean Roots was her name. She later married, for the second time, Bill Miller, who is
Oh,
still
yes.
active with us. And Jean and I became good friends, and she immediately recruited me to be on a committee. And there was another reason to get active right away.
Mhm. So what's one of your favorite memories at the church?
Oh gosh,
I taught 5th grade for 1 year, and I think that was maybe my most memorable year because either I just hit the jackpot or I had the greatest assortment of young boys and girls that I can
Aw.
mention. And that was my best year of giving and receiving at the
Oh,
same.
amen.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. Jim, what about you?
I've been on 2 search committees, one that we called an associate young woman. And then I was pleased to serve on a committee that called Michael.
Mhm. I remember praying for that search committee that called Michael and watching you and how excited and genuinely emotional you were when we accepted your proposal, if you will, when you presented him and when we all unanimously said yes. I remember watching you particular, Jim, because it was
Well,
a big moment for you.
yeah, but
He's a
Apart-
crybaby, and
Oh.
as I've aged, I've lost my ability to control my emotions. So
it's nice. Well, they were feeling exuberant ourselves over that choice of mine.
Oh, absolutely. But what was that moment like for you, Jim?
well, it was really great. We had, I always spend a little time with Michael and Katie and Anderson, who was just an infant at that time.
Mm-hmm.
But we loved all 3 of them.
He's going to cry again.
Man, I have done my job as an interviewer. I didn't even have to put on my interview jacket. I had an interview jacket just for the occasion.
Well, that does look professional.
We belonged to a lot of churches over the years as we moved around the country. And I don't think I've ever belonged to any church where the whole staff has been so satisfied as this one.
Well, thank you. So what are some of your favorite traditions that we have at First Pres? What's something you look forward to every year?
Well, the orchestra,
Yeah.
on those special days.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, we have so much talent in that church. It's hard to just name, a few. It's not fair.
Oh, my last question. What are some of your hopes for First Presbyterian?
I just hope more people would give us a look. And I think perhaps after this time when we're left out of our home prisons, we should be challenged to make that a point to talk to people who aren't affiliated or maybe who are and still just want a fresh voice.
The church with a capital C is facing obvious problems. There's no question the demographics are changing.
I just read a statistic today that only 20% of Roman Catholics attend Mass once a week. 20%. That's I think
low.
surprisingly low. So maybe us presbys aren't that bad, but we could be a lot better.
We could be a lot better. Mm-hmm. God is using this, even though we'd rather be together in person, it's allowing us to do things we maybe not have done yet. So we're going to make the most of it.
Well, Jim began the day by Zooming with his men's Bible study. And
That's right.
Now we go for our afternoon coffee after talking to you. Thanks.
We call it Coffee with Molly.
Oh, perfect. Well, I appreciate you both so very, very, very much. FPC is so blessed to have you as a part of our congregation. You've added so much to it, just your energy and love for God and for his people. I appreciate that so much.
We appreciate you, Molly.
Thank you again for doing this.
This is fun.
This has been Couch Talk with Molly. Happy anniversary again to Jim and Betty.
About yourself.
And what was the question?
We're doing good so far.